in this segment of the program with Patty and Bob Hodanovich. Nicolina's Wishes is the name of the organization that their family has founded, and we're talking all about it and how you can get involved with it. And you have been reaching out to a lot of different people and organizations over the years. And what have you found the reception to be? A lot of people interested in mental health awareness and wanting to get involved in some capacity?
I have been very fortunate. In the beginning, not understanding what direction I wanted to take Nicolina's Wishes, and I've learned so much. First of all, I've learned that I didn't know enough. Mm-hmm. I've learned that Beaver County has a huge amount of support that I did not know about. And I would have to say primarily what Nicolina's Wishes is about is making Beaver County aware, Beaver County residents, Beaver County community members, Beaver County providers aware of what we have. And we do have a lot. Mm-hmm. When I was talking to my son about Nicolina's Wishes, he said to me that I describe it and I make too much out of it. He made it very easy. How did you reply to me about it, Bob?
I said basically Nicolina's Wishes is like a family consultant. So let's say, you have one or two children, maybe three, whatever the case may be, stepkids. One of them is, going through some issues in life. They come up to Nicolina's Wishes. Nicolina's Wishes is there to mitigate those issues and then say, how can we talk to the school counselor? Can we get them involved in other school programs or maybe even a government agency, whatever the case may be, to help get these issues resolved? Because a lot of times, like when it's a young child having issues, it's not just one issue. And it's like, maybe the parents are in and out of like a rehab or a correctional, like it's a multitude of things that need to be all kind of like sifted through. And I think that's primarily what Nicolina's Wishes does. It's like a family consultant. When you come there, you're not going to get they're not going to give you the magic wand, but they're going to get you pointed in the right direction to help the child or help a lot of times the parents come back and they're a lot better off before and after with assistance of the child as well.
Go ahead.
The technical term is called a parent peer specialist. That is what we have been training for. And what that means is we are there to provide understanding, leadership, listening skills to parents so that they can help their children. I do not believe that there is a parent out there that doesn't want to help their child that they love, or a grandparent, or a step-parent. Anyone wants to help their children. It's just a matter of knowing where to go, what works, what doesn't work, and to keep on trying. And through Nicolina's Wishes, instead of you doing the legwork, we do the legwork for you. There's kind of personalities that adapt, that go to certain providers a little bit better than others. There's some that work out of the box, and there's some that work in the box. And the reason I say that is we are not in place of any provider or any service out there that is pre-existing in our county. Nicolina's Wishes is different. We support the family. We support the parents. We support them having an understanding of what their child is going through.
Yeah. A lot of times parents are oblivious to what's happening. At my age, I can think back and think, my parents didn't have a clue as to what I was doing, where I was, and if I was getting into trouble. There are things that kids just normally aren't going to share with their parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so in terms of getting the whole family involved, I mentioning this morning, as a teenager and you go through a lot of different things and maybe you're depressed or, moping around about something. And my dad would say, you don't realize you have the world by the tail and don't even know it. And so it's kind of like, when you're younger, your problems aren't taken as seriously as, perhaps an adult is. Come on, get outside, get, some fresh air, you'll feel better.
You know what, I don't disagree with that, but somebody that has a mental health issue or a challenge, those words means something so different than the way that you are portraying them.
Right.
And those are the things that the parents have to recognize. Myself had to recognize when I said things. I'll give you an example. I used to tell my daughter to go upstairs and get pretty for Jesus on Sunday when we would go to church. Mm-hmm. I didn't find out till later on that she thought that she was ugly because of me and those words. Mm-hmm. And all I was meaning was put on a pair of pants that the shorts weren't so far up your butt, or, appropriate attire was what I was meaning. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, I've learned that words, parents' words are words on someone that has a mental health diagnosis mean different. They take it differently than the way that we portray it. Mm. And we've got to watch our words.
We've come so far as a society of understanding mental health issues for all ages, because there, going back even 10 years ago, we didn't realize that there were that many people in our society, in our culture, in our communities that are suffering from mental health issues.
Well, yeah, and I think that, you mentioned the 10-year mark. I think the turn of social media, the advent of the internet, and people, the world's a lot more, you're exposed to a lot more at a younger age now. Mm-hmm. And, I talk to people that are older, I'm like, you don't realize, like, when you were 15, 20 years old, what you knew, your worldly view, what you understood, what you knew is like what kids that are like 10 years old now. And then prior to that, it's like even worse, you know what I mean? Like, I think that now, and I think that also contributes to the deterioration of a lot of people's mental health, is like what they understand at such a young age is probably not, it's rewiring people. As you can see, we're living the results of it now.
Yeah, right. And how do we help? How do we get that message across, Patty?
Well, I'll tell you what, our organization, we're committed assisting families by adopting positive approaches. And I want to stress positive approaches because it can be taken very negative, and we want to keep positive. And what we do with the families is we navigate this journey together, doing it with them. We may even start in the beginning doing it for them, and then we're doing it together. But the goal is for them to be their children's heroes. For when their child comes to them and says, Mom, Dad, I need help, instead of saying, I don't know, they're going to have an avenue. Maybe they'll refer our great 988 number. Nicolina's Wishes was one of many children that stories was presented to the Senate to make the 988. And that 988 is a check-in number. When this first rolled out, everybody calls it a suicide prevention number. Yeah, maybe you could say that, but I call it a check-in. It's a mental health check-in line. Who thinks about hurting themselves and says, hey, time out, I'm not going to hurt myself, let me call 988. That's not what happens today. But to dial 988 when you're questioning, when you're not sure of what's going on, parents, you don't know what to do. These trained professionals that are answering the 988 are de-escalating situations. When Nicolina had a question or I wasn't sure of something, if I would call 911, my whole house, I had 5 police officers, the medics, everybody. It was unbelievable. And I just think that escalates the situation. Where this 988, it's very confidential. It's very low key. And it de-escalates fears. And then if there is an opportunity when you're calling that trained professional thinks that there's a possibility of a full-blown commitment crisis, then they will advocate and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, and we know so much more about anxiety and depression and panic and all these other issues that for many generations used to be a stigma attached to them. And through this 988, you're saying that people can call and talk these things through, text these things through? Right.
I strongly recommend 988 to all of anybody that enters if they can't and they need to speak to somebody. I'm not going to say that they're going to get all their answers, but maybe for that moment, It will get them through the evening. It will get them to tomorrow. And your present situation will not be your situation for tomorrow. Things will always seem better. It's just getting through that cloud.
Is this exhausting? It seems like, you have your own issues. You had your own issues. You developed this nonprofit, Nicolina's Wishes. But are you taking on other people's emotions and things? It's got to be draining, for you and your family.
You know what? It's draining, but I will say to you that every time I work with a child and fight with a child, it makes me feel that I'm taking, I could take my anger out in a negative situation, but instead of doing that, that negativity becomes positive. So I'm fighting her fight, but I'm doing it in a positive aspect. I don't know if you can understand what I'm talking about. Yeah. Can you explain that, Bob? Maybe, do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah.
And my idea is that when a family texts me or I get thumbs ups from youth individuals that things are still going.
What about the schools? You're dealing with a lot of kids. All schools aren't created equal. But do the schools, do they have that kind of outreach at the schools? Are they helpful? Because we know that, we all know, we've been through it. Children can be very cruel to one another. And you don't always want to say you're being picked on, you're being bullied, and you don't want anybody to see you as the weak person. But do the schools identify this, and can they be more helpful than they are?
Well, I will say that
I'd say probably about like 80% of the schools in the county are on board, maybe 90% of them.
Yeah, but I will tell you that Beaver County provided, they have what they call a Beaver County Youth Ambassadorship. And I will say within the last 2 to 3 years, we have gotten majority, if not 100% of the schools sending children to that event. And this year was a year that we were able to, for open houses, services came into the schools for open houses, as well as Nicolina's Wishes, to tell parents what's available for their children out there if they need help. So I don't know, when I went to open house for Nicolina and Bobby, there was nothing there. Now, we're talking many years ago, but now there's definitely a lot more engagement in the schools. We are working with families. We are able to attend IEP meetings with families. And we're not there to create aggression. We're there to make the parent understand what the school is doing, as well as make the school understand what the parent's wishes are and how they see problems arising or not. So it's kind of like this. If somebody talks to you and tells you what they're feeling, but they have no experience in it, do you really believe what they know what's going on? But someone that has lived it, ate it, slept it, involved in it, tells you, you know what, this is a good thing. I know this will work.
Do you ever encounter any resistance? Parents say, I'm busy. I got to work this, and I got to work that, and I got to raise the kids, and I just don't have time for this.
You know what? There's not a parent that we don't meet them where they need us to meet them. So, no, I have not experienced any of that because our flexibility is unbelievable. We meet the parent where the parent needs to be met. And that's the bottom line.
Do you think you're saving lives?
I know I am.
So there are households all over Beaver County, all over Western Pennsylvania, who are dealing with this.
Yeah, without naming people individually, absolutely.
Right,
yeah, people that you wouldn't even, probably people believe it or not. Your neighbors, extended family, things of that nature.
Yeah. You mentioned events, and you hold events. I saw your float in the Beaver Parade the other day. Purple is a very important color to you.
Well, I will tell you the purple, Nicolina loved all colors. There was a young individual at the Central Valley School District who did a fundraiser who made her color purple. And she said, I know I'm supposed to make green because green is mental health, but I just love the color purple. Would you be upset, Mrs. Hodovanich, if I use purple? I said, honey, if it's in your heart and that's what you want to do, I think Nicolina would appreciate anything. And I asked her, I said, are you one of Nicolina's friends? And she said, Mrs. Hodovanich, I was at a football game. Someone was going to beat me up. My friends didn't do anything. There's a small little 4'8" who said, you're going to have to go through me before you do anything to her. And that's how we met. And from that point on, we were just hi-bye friends because, of course, Nicolina was older and I was much younger. So the older kids didn't hang around the younger kids. And I started laughing. I said, I didn't know that, but thank you so much for sharing. There's so many people that have shared stuff with me that Nicolina has done in a great way, that just keep them coming. I always tell people, they're like, what do I say to you? I say, tell me something about Nick.
Yeah.
Don't ever be afraid to tell someone who has lost a child for any reason a memory, because we cherish every one of them. So that's how Purple got started.
Yeah, and people are obviously feel awkward about bringing it up. You know, they don't want to open up the old wounds and don't want to make you feel bad, so they don't talk to you about those sort of things. And not only with your personal experience, but other people who are going through something similar, maybe they want to have that conversation. Is that what you're finding out?
Well, you know what? American Suicide Prevention, we're collaborating with them, and there are great grief. There is Compassionate Friends. There is Grief Share in our county. But there's what we brought to the table in Beaver County with collaborating with American Suicide Prevention is a very open platform. It meets the fourth Monday of every month at Nicolina's Wishes, where the dialogue is where everybody can talk freely. There's no agenda, meaning that we're not showing DVDs. We're not telling you how you're supposed to feel, because grief is independent.
Yeah, it's not a scheduled program.
It's not like, someone asked me to describe grief. How does it relate to me? And you know what? It's kind of like Nick and I and Aunt Carr used to ride the bumper cars at Kennywood. And you would go around and around, and you're living your life, and you're going around in these circles. And next thing you know, somebody hits you from behind, and your car just gets hit, and you're able to get back into the swing of things. But there's other times you get hit, and you're out of commission for a while. What makes it? I have no idea what makes me survive, and some days I can't get out of bed. Do you know? I just don't know what that is. If somebody could tell me, I'd love to hear it, but I don't know what that could be. So to tell you about that, where you're talking about talking about it is the best policy. Hearing about it is the best policy.
We'll continue our conversation on Nicolina's Wishes on Beaver County Radio.
To renewable energy. But why so fast? What will be the unintended consequences of abandoning fossil fuel-based power before we're ready? How will our quality of life be impacted? We are racing down this road, but a new narrative is evolving. Not so fast. Learn how coal contributes to our quality of life at thecoalhardtruth.com.
In revolutionary times, to be a patriot meant devoting oneself to the greater good and serving one's country in order to preserve the quality of life for everyone. Being a patriot can still bring great rewards in much the same way when you engage with Patriot Home Care in the Beaver Falls area. It can happen as an in-home care and general assistance provider for your loved one, or as a place for you to serve others as a Patriot Home Care employee. Do the patriotic thing today. Call Patriot Home Care, 724-506-8911. Let's all join together to serve the community. Airtime provided by Beaver Area Heritage Foundation.
Get ready to enjoy a good old-fashioned Christmas celebration this Saturday afternoon at the Rochester High School with Beaver County Radio. The annual Community Christmas Carol Sing and Light Up Night is organized by the Beaver Valley Choral Society and sponsored by the Brighton